Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dot. This is the pilot episode slash episode one, and we're really excited to bring you all of the newest VCAA news and predictions. And here are my co-hosts, Chamby, former Stanford Cardinal and current coach of the Miami Hurricanes. Say hello, Chamby.
Hello.
And we also have former wide receiver for Michigan and current Michigan Wolverine assistant coach, Jeff.
Hello.
To start off the show today, we're going to be talking about who are the biggest winners and who are the biggest losers of the off season. Chamby, why don't you start us off?
Uh, Miami. Biggest winners easily, I think, in my mind. Uh, Going from basically no team to grabbing the three top potential players in the VCAA right now. I think definitely the biggest winners. We're gonna have a very good season with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. You've done a great job over there recruiting new talent, some old ones. I know you stole Profik from me. I'm very hurt
And
about that.
yeah,
And yeah, a big loser this offseason, definitely LSU. Speaking of
yep.
that, we lost Frost to the draft, uh, and then we also lost Profik to you guys. And we also lost Carnus. Does anybody remember where Carnus went? Was it
I
Florida?
think
I think it
Yeah.
was Florida.
Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Man,
think
Florida just
Michigan,
took everybody, didn't they?
yeah. Michigan also kind of a big loss, losing
Um.
all three of their starters in the draft.
Right.
Yeah. They
To
got a decent quarterback now, but
They do.
mm, he's not the
Yeah.
best, but he's a more developmental person.
Hmm.
Stanford probably had one of the worst
Stanford
off
is the
seasons.
biggest, I
Stanford.
think, the biggest
Huge L
loss.
for Stanford. I mean, you
Um,
losing Papa, like second best DT that actually played last year. You losing Dusty, great corner, pretty good wide receiver too, and then and then
Well,
this
and
guy right
yep,
here.
most of their team are also redshirted this season.
yeah. Uh, I know they have two quarterbacks right now. They've got Nambo, and also they've got that pickup of Jaden, who I don't know if a lot
Jaden,
of people
right?
know. Jaden reminds me of a Kuru kind of when he started off. Big pocket guy, doesn't really like to move around, but from the pocket he can hit almost everything.
Yeah. Although I was watching one of your practices and I saw him lobbing with full power, or not one of yours, but one of theirs.
Yeah, he I think he's got his lobbing is interesting, but his short, not even short, just any sort of bullet passing from the
Yeah.
pocket is very good, very
Kind of like
solid.
a Kuru kind of QB.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a Kuro QB, I would say. Um,
Jeff, who would
Speaking
you
of,
say is the biggest winner?
Um, I'd have to go with Miami also. Like I think their players are they're good players, but I feel like they're also uh, kind of developmental kind of because Gubu is a good quarterback, but he kind of suffered from his time in Notre Dame, where his coach was like Nova, and he had to run with a run offense. So I think yeah, so I think he's gotten better on his short passes, but he's gonna have to do good on them. And Profix is an interesting player because he's been a decent player, but now he's being put into a good position. So we'll see what he can do. And then Alex Honora has always been a good wide receiver, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does good.
Yeah, I think that Miami also a big winner, but I think that Florida also had a really good off season. Who was Florida last season?
Florida was Nebraska,
Yeah,
Nebraska,
I
right?
and
mean,
Oh, that's a big upgrade then,
I
because you're
I
think
getting
it's
mean,
kind of
heck at
hard to not, yeah, it's kind of
you're
hard to
getting
not
heck
upgrade.
at DT. Who's the new QB again?
Split Chicky, I think is going. Oh no, no, no,
No,
they've got that, they've
is
got
he
that
the
new guy,
guy?
Homie.
Homie,
They've
right?
got
Yeah.
Homie, who
I heard that.
I've heard is very
Yeah, I
good
heard that he
for a
was
new
like
pickup.
a Bahishta type where he's still learning on the short routes, but like every lob he shoots is straight to the wide receiver.
Yeah, I've heard he's a very good quarterback. I've heard his cornering is also pretty good. I think
Yeah,
he's
I
going
heard
to
that
be a
he's a
huge,
defensive guy too.
yeah, huge pickup for them.
Who are their wide receivers?
Um,
I think that's their weak point. I don't think,
I believe Karnas is one of them.
Right, but Karnas is like he can never show up to games.
and
Yeah,
I
because of the
think
time zone.
Carnage is also more of like a route runner. I don't think he catches a lot of lobs.
He is their best lob catcher, but
Yeah, they
he's
were
not a
saying
lob
that he was
catcher.
their best lob
Yeah.
catcher though.
Yeah,
I
the
mean, I
best.
guess Heck is also their wide
Tech is
receiver.
also a receiver that they can use.
Got you.
So
Moving
we
on to the
just
next segment, we've got two teams that could be a boom or a bust. We have Clemson and Miami. Let's start out with Clemson. What do you think, Shambi?
I think it really, really, really depends on whether or not Brandon can make a game. Because I know that that team, as uh, Chef has been saying, and as I think Penley has been saying, is a very big BHL team, and they've got a lot of receivers, but they've only got one quarterback, and it's Brandon. And if he can't show, I think their team is falling apart. So I think him showing is gonna pretty much determine whether they are boom or bust.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Chamby. I think Clemson, uh, they could be a boom. I'm gonna have to lean towards a bust though, because I don't think Brandon is fully committed with the VCAA. I mean, last season he missed a game because he decided to go to a BHL game instead. So that could be a big problem with him not making games. That's gonna force Chef to play quarterback. So I think they could be a big bust.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think I heard something about, well, with Clemson just being Penn State last year. I believe they went 2-4, which isn't a great
I
record.
think they actually went 1-5.
They went 1-5. Yeah, that
Yeah, they
isn't
only
great
beat
at
Auburn.
all. And they're pretty much retaining the same roster if Brandon doesn't play. Now, to be fair, the competition is also a bit weaker this year, so they could still do well with what I assume will be Chef Boyardee at QB. But it really all rides on Brandon, and I know that a lot of people were uh, kind of hating on him for a scrim he had against LSU, uh, myself included. I was stoking that flame a bit, but let's just be honest, scrims don't matter. It was probably his first time playing in like a month, too, so we can't really judge him off of that.
Yeah, I mean, skill-wise, I think they've honestly downgraded. Of course, they did have AK the GOAT and Mavgaz, who were notable people who left. Mavgaz didn't really have an impact last season. He was benched for a while, pretty much the entire season, but he was probably one of, if not their best player, and now he's gone, and uh, a lot of people hate on AK the GOAT, but I think I mean, without AK, they would have been 0-6 last season. So even though a lot of people hate on him and he's not the best player, I think he had a big role in their offense last season. So I think they're gonna miss him, and they're gonna have a brand new player, and I forgot what his name was, but they have a new wide receiver. So
Is it
yeah, I,
Yuppie? I think that's Yuppie.
it might be. I mean, I think the bright spot in Clemson is probably gonna be Ikuzo, because if I remember correctly, he like destroyed Kuru in their game last season. So that might be interesting to see if he does good. But other than that, I'm gonna have to say they're a bust.
And talking about Mavkaz last season, like I don't care what sort of relationship you have with one of your players, but as a coach, it's your job to help your players improve. So I just don't see what the point of that move was, benching Mavkaz when he's clearly one of, if not your best player. Just a bad move, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see if some poor coaching plays into this season as well because I think with the Mavcats they're definitely a way better team. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Okay, so for Clemson, we have booms if Brendan plays across the board. Good for you, Clemson.
I mean,
Now,
I think even with Brandon, they could probably still bust because even him as himself is not the best player. But yeah,
right, yeah. But he is, uh, in this season, a top QB, just
yeah.
because the field has dwindled quite a lot in that regard. All right, moving on to Miami. Chambi, what do you think? Are they boom or bust?
I think that obviously I'm gonna be a bit biased, but
Yeah, just a little
if you
bit, just
want
a little bit biased.
if you want a genuine answer with no bias, I think if Gubu can show out and if we can get Alex and R back into like the swing of things, get him used to now actually being targeted as a wide receiver. I think if we can work with Profik on his DT, make sure that he kind of gets rid of some of the habits that he has that we've seen during practices, I think definitely a big boom team. Easily a playoff team in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are very split on this. I feel like people either have Miami at 6 or 7 seed overall, or like second or third. It's just a very wide margin for Miami to fit in. And I think that Miami has two top 15 receivers and a top uh, either 3 or 5 QB. Like Gabu, very good. However, I have heard rumors that recently he's been a bit streaky in that if he throws one pick, he's just off for like a whole half hour or something crazy like that. So we'll see what comes from that. But as far as just straight depth of lineup and star power, you've got Profit, you got Alex Anar, you got Gabu. Just very good lineup. I think their only real problem could be people targeting Gabu on defense. Not the greatest CB, uh, but like
Yeah,
what
and that's
QB
definitely
really is good on defense? Let's just be honest.
yeah, that's definitely something we can work with as well with him. And oh, something that we're bringing in to the VCAA with Miami, obviously in real life, uh, the Miami Hurricanes have a turnover chain. So what happens is if on defense a player gets a pick or forces a fumble and picks it up, the player receives a turnover chain on the sideline and wears it until they go back in on defense. So, what we will be doing is on every player's skin, they will have a chain on the outer layer, and they will be turning the outer layer off. And if they do get a pick and turn the ball over, they will be turning the jacket back on and wearing the turnover chain for their next offensive drive.
That's cool. That's
Sounds
actually
epic.
really cool. I also heard that you guys have something else about your team that has a lot of boom, and that is Bacon Man at
Oh
mascot.
my God, the best mascot, Bacon Man. We actually made him a skin. What we did was we took Donald Duck, changed the colors around, and made now a basically ibis, but it looks like a duck, so it doesn't matter what it is. And so he will be on the sideline, repping that skin, and anytime that anything good happens, you should hear a big "Go Canes" from Bacon Man.
I can't wait to see that. Jeff, what do you think? Boom or bust, Miami?
Um, I think they're like a 90% a boom. Because if you look at the team that Miami is, they are Syracuse, and if you're really looking to, if you want to consider a boom, Syracuse was winless last season. They're 0-6, had the worst team by far, number 10 for most of the season. It's very hard not to boom for this team, and on top of that, they have probably the most one of the most active players, like teams. So I don't think they will have a bunch of missing players. And I think they have a pretty solid team. The only thing I could see being a big issue for this Miami team is they have a very hard schedule. I mean, week one they face LSU, week two they take on Florida, week three they take on Clemson, uh, week four Ohio State, week five Auburn, which is probably their most easiest game on the schedule, and then week six they take on Michigan. So I'd say they're probably taking on like five of the best teams in 5 weeks. So
I would say from week 1 through week 4 is going to be guaranteed difficult. Week 5 and week 6 depends. I think Auburn could show out, and I also think Michigan could have a very big turnout on that. So there's a definitely a very hard schedule for Miami.
Yeah, and to
yeah,
me, that's just unfortunate. Like, you take a team like LSU that had a very easy schedule last year and got the number one seed, and now since we were the number one seed last year, you would put us against what were the toughest teams last year. But now the problem is that the toughest teams last year are now the worst teams this year, and that the worst teams last year are now the best teams this year. So you end up with
Yeah,
a team like Miami having the
definitely
toughest schedule.
definitely a ranking flip for these teams. I think Stanford completely dropped out of the top 4. Yeah, now just looking at it, it's just a complete swap. Like the only team I think that stayed where they kind of belonged was LSU. I think everybody else kind of positions from last season.
Yeah. Except I would argue that Michigan was the fifth seed last year, and they're probably going to be the fifth seed this year.
Yeah, I
yeah, I
think
could
that's
agree with
definite.
that.
Some of
They're
them I
not as
think have been
good.
neutralized, but
I think Michigan could swoop into the playoffs again. Uh, and I don't know if I said this, but I think Miami is guaranteed to make the playoffs. I think it would be very hard for them to miss them. And even if they make the playoffs, I don't know if they will win the national championship. But considering they were an '06 team, even if they make the playoffs, I call that a boom.
Right. You can't go much farther down than 0 and 6.
yep.
What do you guys think about Stanford? The new kids around the block. It seems like a completely new team. Nobody taken from last season except for Jimmy. Uh,
Which even Jimmy actually isn't going to be there. He's going to be redshirted.
Jimmy's
And
redshirted. Wow.
Jimmy is redshirting, Papri is redshirting, Skinny is redshirting,
Nambo's
and
redshirting.
yeah, and so basically all of the players that would have been returning Stanford players are redshirting, so they will not be making an appearance this season.
It's just unfortunate for them, but now they've got all of these new guys in, and they're. I just see no world in which they win week one against USC, which might be one of the easier games on their schedule, which is unfortunate. But since they're new, I just don't see a way that they'll be able to just adjust to game speed right away and come
Mm-hmm.
out guns a-blazing like you would
I
want
mean,
to do.
I can argue with that. I think USC is probably their easiest game because USC, I don't even know if Zay will actually show up the games. Because obviously Zay's looking like a pretty good QB. But like even as Zay shows up, do they really have anybody else on their team to help him? And I don't know.
Well, they
It's
have
gonna be a tough
Mike.
game. They have Mike, yeah, NQD Brandon, I guess. But I don't know. I can see Stanford winning that, but I think Stanford really reminds me of Syracuse from last season, except like their players are actually like trying to do good, but they're just not good.
hmm Yeah, I can see Stanford going 0 and 6, but it'd just be nice to not have an 0 and 6 team this year. You know, you hate
Yeah,
to see somebody never win a game, and then all of their players want to leave, and then they all get replaced by like super talented players.
yeah,
Well,
very, very
especially
reminiscent of Miami.
especially with the downgrade of talent. I think it'll be weird to see an 0-6 team like with a downgraded talent because it should be a lot easier to win games now. But I think Stanford also has a pretty hard schedule. I mean, they face some good teams. I think their easiest games are USC and Auburn, which is obviously even those are hard games for Stanford. So
Yeah. Here's hoping that they can pull one of those out. Hopefully not against LSU or Miami or Michigan, but
yeah,
So now
and
we're
somebody else.
even after even if they have a poor season this season, I mean if you look at it, next season or there's gonna be a lot of people declaring. I mean Cosmo, you might declare. Who knows? There's gonna be a lot of people declaring, a lot of people transferring, and if the VCAA is around next season, because I mean there's gonna be a lot of people leaving. It's gonna be a shit show, I should say. Uh, Maybe next season they can be able to pull out a winning
yeah.
season, but this season I don't see them
Yeah.
going anywhere.
It's just
I
gonna
think
be all of the new coaches going on Hypixel and pulling the first person they see that's good at bow duels and say,
You
"You're
know,
my QB."
I think the BCAA is definitely going to be falling apart unless we get a new wave of players in. Moving on to the next topic, which is Michigan. Thoughts for the season coming up, Jeff? Mainly directed at you.
um, you know, I think this has been a repeated term on the podcast so far. I think we're a boom and bust, boom or bust team. And I think one of the main factors, two main factors of if you do good or not, is one, Miro, he's going to be missing a good amount of games. There's been a lot of people saying he's going to redshirt. Didn't hear anything about that. He never told me anything about redshirting. But he is expected to miss around 2 to 4 games, which if he does happen to miss four, uh, I don't know. I think we we don't really have. I mean, Shreyas is a good receiver. I don't think he lives up to the skill of Miro, and I mean, Fresh is a good option too, but I think missing Miro would hurt us a lot. But we also have Ben is very interesting QB because I've seen him practice before. He can have a practice where he's hitting great passes, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and then he has a practice where he does horrible. But one of the main things about Ben is he's very easy to adapt to what we tell him to do. One of those examples, he had a receiver open, threw it straight to the cornerback. We told him to try to touch pass it over the cornerback, and next play he does that exact thing for a touchdown. So he's a very easy player to develop, but I think he's gonna be a bit shaky, especially without Miro.
Mhm. Uh, I really like what Miro's been doing. He's just like a really, really good lob catcher. I've seen him mossing like Zolo before. He's just insane at the timing. He's really got it down. I think his only problem is that like he he's still like a little bit unrefined on his route running. If you can get that going, he's gonna be a real top pick in the draft, and he's gonna be somebody who you'd want to get.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't touch too much on our defense. I'm kind of confident in our defense. I think it's an underrated part of our team. Cat has always had the potential to be a good DT. He might not be as good as a DT as people like Papa or even Upert. Of course, Upert. There's been a lot of criticism about him being a good DT, but I think Cat can be a good DT. Freshers is looking like a great CB. He's has the high CPS to be a DT, but has like the wild catching and covering ability to be a good CB. So I think he's gonna be a really good fit there, especially week 1 against Notre Dame. He fits our game plan perfectly. Miro is another good option at CB. Of course, he's expected to miss some games, but he can cover the lob. I feel confident with him in end routes. And Shreyas, of course, he might be a starting DT, he might be a third string. And I love Shreyas to death. He's one of my favorite players in Michigan. But I think he still needs some improvement. On CB, he's very inconsistent with covering out routes. He can cover lobs, but he's gonna have struggle against wide receivers like Alex Hinoir and some other good wide receivers. So uh, it's a little shaky, but I think our defense is pretty good. Our offense is pretty good. I think we can have a playoff berth. I don't think we're a national championship team, but I think we can be a decent team. And if we retain our players, we might have a very good season next season. But yeah, I'm pretty confident. Hopefully, we can have a good season.
Yeah. I actually I actually don't agree with you on you guys being a boomer bust team. I think that no matter what, you're going to get at least 3 wins, and I think that's going to be really crucial towards the latter half of the season when every team is playing at their best trying to make it into the playoffs. Uh, and I think that if Miro can show for those last couple games, you're going to have a really good fighting chance. And I think that there are very few scenarios that I see you guys missing.
Mhm. Speaking of Miro, I think he's also somebody who could be a potential Wiseman, and I think it'll all depend on how Michigan does, as we were saying. So I think if Michigan can show out this season and do really well, I think Miro's going to be the reason that they do that, and so I think he is a definite potential Wiseman candidate.
I agree with that. Like there are a couple players who I just haven't been hearing in the Weisman conversation enough. Like Miro in there, and then Ohms. Ohms, my teammate, best CB in the league.
Hmm.
Very good wide receiver. Like I'm gonna have to throw to Ethan a lot to make sure that he doesn't win Weisman.
Yeah, I think also, you know, the Miami receivers are potential Wiseman candidates as well.
Right. I think that like the Weisman competition is wide open. Weisman, of course, being the Heisman, but with a V at the start. It's clever, like it being the VCAA instead of the NCAA. Clever
Yeah,
like that. Yep.
I think speaking of Wiseman winners, LSU last season hosted the Wiseman winner Frostbites,
Oh no,
and
don't
in
mention it.
their second natty. So the question is, does the natty streak continue for LSU this season?
What the heck, Herb? This is our commissioner. Welcome, impromptu guest. Say
Okay, thank
hi.
you.
Say hi, Herb. Herb says hi. Herb, everyone.
Anyway, uh, so and does LSU continue their streak? Is the question, I think.
I will abstain from this question.
Uh, by shriek, do you mean losing the natty or making it to the natty?
I would say making the natty.
Uh, I think,
Shut up.
I mean, I think the playoff, I think they're a guaranteed playoff team. You can argue that they're downgraded, but I think Ohms, I, I haven't heard a lot of talk about him being a good receiver, but I know he can be a good receiver. I think he's kind of like a dark horse at receiver. Of course, he's a good cornerback, so that should translate to receiver.
Yeah,
I think they can be a good team. They can make it to the playoffs. I think the main factor of if they make it to the Natty is who they play in the playoffs. It's up to who they play in the playoffs, to be honest. Like I think they can make it to the Natty, but if they play it's a good team in the playoffs, there's a chance they can lose. There's a chance they can't make it to the Natty.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad team in the playoffs. I think that if you make the playoffs, you are a good team. So it doesn't really matter
I
who
mean,
LSU plays.
by
It's going to
bad
be
team,
a
I
tough
mean
game no
like
matter what.
by bad team, I mean like season 2 LSU versus Stanford, where it's like both teams are good, but LSU was obviously like the way
Oh
better
yeah, the
team.
QB
Hmm.
for Stanford sucked that year.
Yeah,
Yup.
definitely wasn't the
Yeah,
brightest
Tech
of
is
years
in,
for them.
nah, Tech is carried.
Anyway, uh, speaking of LSU's natty streak, they entered their second natty this season and continued their losing streak of the natties against Notre Dame, which, as we all know, ran a very heavy run offense. And so the question is, does the play style switch with the loss of Hubert?
I don't think that the problem is Uper. I think that it's Hollow and Nova. I think that Nova wants to run that strategy. I mean, you saw it even today. Nova, being the coach per se of the Browns, had his team run that same sort of Notre Dame running offense in a loss to the Steelers, but it did work. It worked really well with Kuru at QB, and I would say that Kuru and Hollow have very similar play styles. Obviously, Kuru being a bit more refined, being an M or a VFL QB, and Hollow still being in the VCAA. But I think that Nova's just in love with that play style and he won't change it. And he picked Hollow last year over Gabu because he thought that Hollow run that play style better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you, Cosmo. I could see. I mean, Hubert. You said. I mean, Hubert. I think he was a big part of the running offense. Obviously, I think he was a great blocker. He has a high CPS, what, like 19 CPS, able to create a lot of room for the running back to run.
It is a very nice
Um,
auto clicker.
and I think they've really lost that CPS because unless Landmine has high CPS, I don't know who has high CPS who
yeah.
can work as a
Although,
blocker.
Did they
to be
pick up
fair,
any like PvP sweats?
I don't think so. But to be fair, uh, you have to look at it like uh, high CPS doesn't really matter because if you know how to hit, it works just as well since the server is post 1.9.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you know how to hit, you could do just as good as blocking. So I think if they can get someone who can time their hits very well, they could run the same exact offense and it would work just as well as it did the first time.
Well, as I was saying, is like I think I don't know. I think they're gonna struggle more. I think Hollow is a decent quarterback, but honestly, I mean, he was very rough, especially in the natty. He missed some run plays. He missed screens. He can hit scrambles, but he's very inconsistent. I think they're gonna struggle without Hubert. Not only for a blocker, but for a lobber. Of course, you have Waste of Space now and Landmine. Landmine, you've seen him moss people, but I don't think he's an ideal person to go for lobs. Wasted Space apparently can catch lobs now, but uh, unless he wants to transition to lob catcher, I think he's more suited as a route runner. And I think Notre Dame's play style kind of hinders his ability to be a receiver. So I think uh, Nova's obviously too stubborn to actually change her play style. And I think they might struggle a little bit with it, but I don't think it'll change.
I
Right.
think
And
that
I'm actually
what like
really glad that you mentioned Waste of Space because I think that he will be that upfront guy and probably Landmine will be in the back. I'm not sure if that'll be switched around, but those are definitely their two receivers. I think they're interchangeable to be honest. I think they're at about an equal level at lob catching from what I've seen of both of them. Waste of Space redshirting last year. We didn't get to see much of him, but now he's back. It's the summer. He's going to be out there on the field. And I think that that up front spot, we've been talking about how, oh, they're a blocker. But, like, the main part of the Notre Dame offense was just being able to hit the running back as he was in midair to be able to get a huge boost off the line of scrimmage and straight out towards that first down marker. And that's what really killed LSU in the Natty and so many other teams during the regular season.
yeah,
I just want to point out which space was actually banned for a majority of last season. He wasn't redshirted because he started the season on Syracuse. He played in 2 games. He had an altercation. Gooey caused Gooey to resign as the head coach of Syracuse. In week 2, they lost USC. I believe there was a feder wasting work. All decided to make their own league, copycat of VFL, and they all got banned for a majority of last season up until week 5, I believe. So yeah, he wasn't redshirted, which I believe that season counts his eligibility, and if it does, this is his 3rd season. But yeah.
Okay, so my bad on that. Waste of space, not redshirted. He was actually a bad boy. Uh,
That was
okay. What would be next? Or
that was
just.
it. That was the last one.
Oh, right. I was gonna ask Jeff about the QB situation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ask a personal question. I think that's the last thing.
Yeah. And then we do playoff predictions. And I actually have a targeted question now for Mr. Basic Jeff over here. Being the coach of Michigan, there's been some controversy coming off of the practice field with Skittle and Bahishta both fighting for that QB spot. Can you give us a bit of an update on that? We heard that Bahishta was leading that conversation recently, and now we're hearing that Skittle might redshirt. Are these rumors true?
Uh, yeah. Uh, Obviously, I think it was clear from the beginning of the off season. I made it clear I wanted a quarterback, and although I don't think he's the thing with Skittle is it's not that I dislike him. I don't think he's ready to start. And honestly, he feels like he is. He said he wanted to go to other teams. I'm not gonna mention the teams, because I don't know if that's tampering or not. But he said he wanted to go to other teams. The problem is I don't think he's ready to start. He's very good on the walls, but I touched on this earlier. The difference between him and Ben is Ben's very easy to develop. He adjusts to what we tell him. Skittle, instead of listening to the coaches, he kind of argues back with us. I mean, there's a point where he had Raul open on the right side. He scrambled to that side, stared straight at Raul, decided not to pass to him, and then scrambled back and threw an incompletion. And he's just very inconsistent. I think he can turn into a good player, and I don't. There might be some people who think we're just holding him hostage, but I think the difference between holding him hostage is we're not holding him hostage because uh, we want like we're not holding him hostage because anything out of like dislike or anything. It's because we just don't think he's ready. And Ben, he just showed up in scrimmage more. I think he has more chemistry with the team. Uh, Him and Miro have performed really good. Obviously, Miro has become a very reliable target for him. I would like for him to get more comfortable with throwing to Shreyas' side because I think the Michigan offense last season, although I was the number one target, Eek was very comfortable with throwing passes to Ted, and I don't want Ben to just be looking at Miro's side. So I think right now Ben definitely is our QB1. Skittle will be redshirted most likely. If Ben misses a game, he might come in, although he might not just to preserve his red shirt. It depends on the game. But yeah, right now, it technically isn't official, but it looks like Ben's probably gonna be their starter, and we just we want to develop Skittle, especially for next season. If Ben's not on the team, if Ben remains on the team next season, Skittle might not even be on Michigan. Because like I said, I don't want to hold him hostage. I just want to develop him, and uh, yeah, that's pretty much our QB situation. And We do have, if we do ever need a backup QB, Kubrick. He showed out really good in our first couple scrims with him. He's very good at hitting short routes. He could be a good QB down the line. And then Freshers was also a pretty good QB. So we have other options for QB, but those two guys are like the main QBs, and yeah, Ben has won it so far.
Yeah. That's very smart. Like, as we said earlier, the point of the VCAA isn't to win the Natty, although it is nice bragging rights because what is there in block game football besides bragging rights? Pretty much nothing. So winning the Natty, winning Weisman, both just two really cool things that you can get. But the point of the VCAA is to just get better and get prepared for the VFL. So you just really hate to see it when teams are trying to win in the VCAA. Like obviously in the playoffs, sure, yeah, you can go for it. You can do whatever you want because you want to win at that point. But up until then, you're just trying to get better and get prepared for the next level, which is very much more difficult.
Yep.
hmm
That's it, right?
I also noticed that one of your favorite plays is uh, Miro just go to the middle of the field, go forward, and Ben hit the dime.
Yeah, like I said, Ben is super comfortable with throwing the Miro, and I think uh, I'd like to incorporate Gabby Sly or whoever our other wide receiver is, not only for Ben to not just rely on one receiver, but it can throw the other team off guard. But yeah, I think Ben and Miro are very. I think they just are a better combination than Skittle and Miro.
hmm All right. Well, with all of that out of the way, now we're going to be moving on to probably one of the more highly anticipated segments, and that is the playoff predictions. Top five teams, with the fifth team being a team that could make the playoffs, but uh, just a little bit worse than the other four. We'll start with Chamby. Why don't you go first?
Playoff predictions. I'm gonna predict LSU and Miami, I think, are interchangeable at one or two in my opinion. And then I would put probably I think Ohio State could make it, but I think at three I'm gonna have to go with Clemson. And for four, I would say probably Ohio State would take the four spot in my opinion.
Okay.
Uh, this is very tough because it's up to a lot of like make or break situations. Obviously, Clemson's a boom or bust team. But I guess we'll start with the one seed. And judging by schedule, I think it's going to be LSU. If we look at their schedule, I think Miami and LSU play game week one, which is going to probably determine the one seed. Well, not necessarily, but because Miami also has a hard schedule, but Miami and LSU, that's going to be a tough game. I think LSU could win that. Miami could win that. LSU versus Stanford, that's an easy win for LSU. LSU versus Notre Dame, it's a downgraded Notre Dame, a downgraded LSU, but I think LSU has the edge. And then LSU versus USC, that's another win. LSU versus Michigan, Michigan could be a team that could bump down LSU seed. Uh,
Only
and
a
then
bit of
LSU,
bias with that prediction, only a bit.
and then LSU versus Florida. Florida, I think they're also a team that might be able to pull up an upset.
I
Uh,
agree with
I
that.
they have a chance of that, but I would say, uh, I think LSU just has the. I think LSU is a one seed because Miami just has a way tougher schedule. Now, there's no guarantee that they'll lose all his games, but do you expect them to beat LSU, Florida, Clemson, and Ohio State all back to back? I think it's gonna be really tough for them to pull off. Of course, I think they could win a good amount of those games, and they could take the 1 seed. But I see them at the 2 seed. The 3 seed's a little tougher, uh, because my like top candidates for the 3 seed are probably Ohio State and Clemson. Ohio State's a team that like a lot of people are very high on. I'm not really high on them. I don't think Big Ham was a good choice at QB. Apparently, Ben likes to joke, but from what we saw in the Fiesta Bowl, Big Ham almost blew a big lead to Auburn. And I'm not very high on Ohio State, but I'm also not high on Clemson. They can be a team that bust. I predict them to bust. So I'm gonna put Ohio State in the 3 seed. The 4 seed, uh, I guess that could be between 3 teams. Probably Michigan, Notre Dame, and Florida. I'm gonna eliminate Florida just because uh, I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard one. I think Homie looks like a really good quarterback, but his targets are not great by any means. I think there's a lot better teams. Although Florida has one of the easier schedules, to be honest, I don't see them making number 4. Notre Dame, and Michigan's a hard one. They play in week 1. Uh, I Notre Dame I think is gonna struggle. Michigan obviously could be a boomer bust team. Because Miro missing games. So I don't know about the 4 seed. The 4 seed's hard. I'm just gonna leave it either Florida or Notre Dame or Michigan.
Okay. Uh, at the
It's just
first
I
seed,
don't have an actual prediction for that.
yeah. For my predictions, at the first seed and second seed, I have LSU first and Miami second. But what I would love to see is like if both teams go 5-1. Since that's the only tie available, they can't both go 6-0 since uh, they play each other week 1, or we play each other week 1. That is, I would love to see uh, a battle for first seed slash second seed as like a tiebreaker, just a little like pre-playoffs action, kind of like we saw last year, but with lower stakes since it's not a matter of who gets in the playoffs with a wild card game, and it's just who gets the higher seed. But then at third seed, I'm gonna have OSU. I think that Jeff, you're wrong about Bigham. I think that Bigham is actually a really good short to mid round QB. He still has to work on his lobs, since we all know he's a guy from the MFL, and in the MFL he just sort of like jump shot passes it over the CB's head, and you can't really do that with a regular bow. That's more of a crossbow thing. So we'll see how he adjusts in that way. And then at fourth seed, there's just so many teams that could be the fourth seed. You could either have Michigan, Florida, you could have Clemson. One might even argue Notre Dame will sneak in because it's going to be uh, hard to get ahead of them by a whole lot when you can't stop their running game. Uh, I'm going to have to go with Florida, though, just purely based off of talent. Uh, really good QB, homie, at least at lobbing, from what I've heard, and heck at DT. That's going to be a team to watch out for. Uh, but if I had to pick a team that would beat them, it would be Michigan. I think that Michigan could eke out a fourth seed if Miro is able to play for 4 games and not just 2. But we'll have to see. And that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching the first episode of The Dot. Uh, thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you
watching the
guys.
first episode of The Dot, the kickoff.
Uh,
And it actually kicks off the season in an hour. So if you're interested in coming onto the server and watching It's going to be at /warp silverdome once you log on to the IP on screen right here, vflnetwork.com or net. Is it
Uh,
vflnetwork.net?
it's net. I think
Hang
it's
on.
net.
I can just check it right here. Uh, yeah, mc.vflnetwork.net, and you can join right there. And then you can do /warp silverdome, and you'll be right there where the games happen live. Also, there's going to be full game highlights uploaded to this channel if you aren't able to make it to those games live. So you'll be caught up on everything that's going on, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye. What should the intro be? What are we naming this? Just the VCAA
The
podcast.
Cool Kids Podcast.
No.
KKP.
No. No, that doesn't work, Jeff.
Yeah, the Cool Kids Club Podcast.
No,
KKK.
No. That's probably not the best idea.
No. That's yeah, maybe suboptimal just a little bit.
Your VCAA weekly podcast.
VCAA weekly, sure.
Oh, you can like we could have you know how like the NBA has like the jump and they have all that. We can be like
What are we calling it?
Jimmy's mixing. We're kind of the Abuelita podcast.
No, please don't call it that.
Okay.
Call it the dot.
The dot. All right, I'm down.
The lateral.
No,
The
the dot.
lateral.
The
Of
trick pass.
course.
The extra point. The PAT.
The
kickoff.
PAT.
No, it should be the kickoff. The kickoff.
The kickoff. Yeah, since I'm releasing it right before the first game, maybe.
Yeah. Kickoff. Call it the kickoff.
The kickoff, yeah.
Or we could call the podcast the dot and then call like the episode the kickoff. Because like it's the
true.
That's
kickoff.
actually yeah. Do that.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because it's like
Do you guys just want to meet up
Kicking off the
like
season.
in game for this?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sure.
let me click
Okay.
the G.
Because we're gonna have like an actual thing soon. Because I got Ridge to make it for us. But until then. Okay, where are we going?
We can go in the press box or like Qualcomm or something.
Qualcomm is gone.
we could go to
Literally
Silverdome?
any
Warp,
stadium.
wait, Warp, Florida. Warp, Florida.
Oh, Florida.
Follow me.
I typed in Florida. Oh no,
Have you
now I
started
typed
the
in
podcast? You haven't started
Florido.
it yet.
Flow
You haven't
Rider.
started it yet, right?
No, he hasn't.
I started recording.
Oh, he did.
I'm gonna edit this out.
Fuck. Dick on my ass.
Oh, we're
dick
gonna
in
be in your office.
Oh my god, is he Jimmy's little bitch?
Oh shoot, does Lunar have replay mod?
What the fuck is that skin, Jimmy? What the fuck?
It's my sweatshirt.
Why does
I can put on my.
Lunar...
You want me to go on my actual skin or what?
You look retarded.
Bro, why does Lunar not have replay mod?
Winner doesn't have replay mode.
Okay, we'll just do... I'll be an out... What is this?
Bacon's
Viver la
office.
tua vita y el
Hold on.
Miguelo te pude.
I have an idea. Hold on, stay here.
Random crap.
Hold on, stay here. Just don't move.
Alright.
Alright, baby girl.
I'm gonna go get some green wool, so it's like a green screen behind us, and some chairs from Walmart. Or do you want blue wool for a blue screen? You want blue
It's
screen
like
or green
we
screen?
just received funding after episode 1 for episode 2.
Blue screen or green screen? Green screen.
Green screen.
Okay. Green screen. And then
Also, I have 2 backup questions. One of them is for Jeff alone. I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
book Bacon's office.
Bacon's office.
No, poor Bacon. His office. my suit on and everything. Oh, that's actually a pretty nice backdrop since I get the bushes in frame too.
Shit.
Ah, the chairs. Yeah. I think
So
you
we're
have to
gonna just
place it
sit on
from
the
the other
slab.
side.
There we go. Look out. Look out of the way. Okay.
Right. Oh, let me write down the questions on a sheet of paper so that I don't have to tab in and out.
Jeff, come here.
Oh, bro,
Jeff, take a seat.
this looks retarded. Why are we sitting next to doors? What?
Those are the backs.
Retard mode.
Or do you want an actual chair? I could give you an actual chair.
No, I like this. Hold on, let me fucking be real quick.
What are you doing to me? I'm so scared.
Give me, wait, no, you're giving me that gawk gawk.
My bad if I'm in the way.
I'm Finley, bro. Ew, fuck Oasis, please. He went to Notre Dame. Is she like retarded or something? Imagine you go to Notre Dame, there should become a running back. Gonna be me.
Sit down, you fucking loser. Cosmo, what are you doing?
I'm AFK doing the.
Dude, you just
Oh,
say you
I
may have
guess.
came? That's great.
I'm writing down the questions so that I don't have to tab out.
When's
The questions, did you
Dorado?
pin them?
Yeah, I pinned them. LSU Natty Streak, then
Lopito, Lopito.
Clemson Boom Bust.
So it's Clemson Boom Bust, biggest winners and losers, Miami Boomer Bust, and does LSU continue to the third
Wait, can
natty?
you like repost all the questions?
No. Just click the big pin at the top,
Click the
Jeff, and it'll
pins,
pull up all
yeah.
the questions.
Notre
And then
Dame playstyle
we'll unpin them
switch.
for each week. So Notre Dame playstyle switch, and then we'll just segue to like naturally, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So what are we starting with? Biggest winners and losers, I think, is smart.
We're starting
I
with
think
biggest
winners and losers should be,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll slowly go into like boom or bust with Clemson and Miami. Then we'll go into LSU, third natty, then Myro, then Notre Dame. I think
Right.
that would be a good. Or no. LSU, then Notre Dame, then Myro. I think would be easier to segue
Okay.
through.
Yeah. Okay. Hello and welcome to the Dot Podcast. Today I'm joined by Chamby, a former Stanford Cardinal, now coaching for the Miami Hurricanes, and Basic Jeff, former Michigan Wolverine, and now current coach of the Wolverines. I'm Cosmo, an LSU player, current, and
Bro, you suck.
I do. Hey, look, man. Look. First time doing this, you know? Okay. I think I can get enough out of that to just edit it down. We'll just cut to the first segment.
Okay, who asked the first question? Actually, Cosmo, can you repost your questions? I don't know any
What
of
do
them.
you mean? Okay. I'll just post
You
them
don't
all
need to
in order.
repost them. Just
Okay.
click on the pin, bro.
I'll just post them all in order because Jeff is dumb.
Chamby,
Okay.
shut up and push my head to juicy you.
Biggest.
Isn't he recording, Jeff?
He can cut it out. Like, if I said the N word right now, he can cut it off.
Oh my God.
I would just cut it out, and then I would
I
have you
think you would.
banned.
Can I say like Nibba?
Do it in order. Do it in order of what we're doing. So it's
Yeah.
biggest winners and losers. Miami, boom or bust. Or no, do Clemson then Miami.
By biggest winners and losers, is that like a
Clemson,
prediction of who's gonna do good?
boomer bust.
Clemson then Miami. Then we'll segue into LSU to
LSU
the third
natty
natty.
streak.
LSU natty streak, and then
Notre
Notre
play
Dame
style.
Notre play style, and then Miro.
Miro.
All right, there we go. All right,
And then what else was there?
knows it. Oh, extra questions, but we're not
Oh,
gonna need
no,
the
no.
extra question. Oh, we can segue from Miro to. Oh no. Delete the Miro message. Segue from biggest dark horse to Miro.
We're gonna cut that. I feel like that's more of a week 2
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, because I'm gonna again. Then we'll see all the play. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll have my special question in between Miami and LSU probably.
Okay.
Wait, no, before Miro
Okay.
because that's Michigan.
How do we start?
Biggest winners and losers.